Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, sponsored by the Draft Professors. Joined today with two of the OG Draft Professors, Newt Weston and Owen. Guys, it is great to see you. Newt is rocking the Draft Professor swag. Newt, how are you doing tonight?
I am good. I was actually kind of cramming for this. Just a little bit of preview. We're going to be talking about defensive backs, and I watched cornerbacks a good bit ago. Bigger need for the Packers, so I knocked that out earlier. And I was watching safeties, and not that either of those positions were tough, but I really don't like this slot or nickel class that much, and it seemed like I had to kind of dig to find some guys to watch for that position. So I've been scrambling a little bit to get some guys, but we are good, and I think I got some fun guys to talk about for tonight.
And sorry to wake you up from your nap to podcast.
No, it's fine. I intentionally went to bed at the time I did, but I mean, I just woke up and I'm remembering all the great news because we're celebrating happy NHL trade deadline week, guys. We kind of buried the lead yesterday, but we had some crazy trades already now, including your new Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, that's very far from the truth.
I've already been asked like 5 times to explain the big Buffalo Sabres trade today in terms of football. My best way to describe it was so they gave up a first and Radim Murtka, who was their 9th overall pick this past draft, for Colton Parayko from the Blues. And I basically described it as the first round pick you can think of as like if you traded a first round pick in the NFL 3 years down the line in the future. It is not really useful. The guy's not going to play for your team for at least minimum 3 years.
Right.
And I comped Murtka to if you drafted Tremaine Edmonds the year prior to his draft season at Virginia Tech. So, like, still way far out, but obviously has the tools. Was still 6'5", 240, whatever.
Yeah.
Clearly wasn't ready for the show. And then I comped the guy that the Sabres got returned to when the Rams traded for Von Miller, make that push for the Super Bowl, where it's like, did they need to add their defensive line because they already have like Aaron Donald? No. Do you still want to add a slightly over the hill Von Miller because he's still a good player? Yes. Like that. That's basically the comp I had for that trade or the pieces within it.
All right. So future focused versus now focused.
Yes, they had a taste of playoffs. The Sabres have not made the playoffs in 14 years. Since the last time they were in, there was not HD television for the playoffs. And they said, all right, cool. We're now the second best team in the Eastern Conference. We are going to go for it.
Mad respect. I'll say my hockey knowledge is about as centered on what players the Red Wings have in their maybe first 2 lines, maybe only first line, depending on the year. And it extends not much further than that.
Are you telling me that you would, if you had to have a gun to your head, would root for the Red Wings, Newt?
I do root for the Red Wings. I'll wear my Red Wings hat next. I'll put my Nick Lidstrom jersey on. I'll get my Red Wings T-Saul hat, and I'll wear that on the next podcast.
The level of disappointment. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I don't know what you want from me. We don't have a professional hockey team in Wisconsin. I grew up watching Steve Yzerman and Nick Lidstrom dominate, so that's where we are. That's why I'm a Bulls fan. I can remember Michael Jordan at the end of his second three-peat, and I was like, that guy's cool. I'm going to cheer for that team.
Well, that was probably more of a mistake than I guess the Red Wings haven't been too hot either.
Yeah, it's been after the 2000s with them and the Penguins. It's been a little cooling period.
I have a thing. So I went to college in Michigan, in the state of Michigan. I have a thing against all Michigan sports teams. So the conversation when I was going to college is either how good the team was last year or how good they're going to be next year, but never how good they are now. Until the Red Wings. So that was right when that was in the early 90s. So that was right when they got the Russian. Was it the Russian 5, I think, or something like that?
The Wizard of Oz. They all had Oz at the end of their name.
Yes. But the Red Wings hadn't won anything. They were a good team, but that was before they got Hasek. So they were good, but I had fraternity brothers that were Blackhawks fans.
Okay.
And the Blackhawks kicked their butt that year. And then that was like the Lions with Barry Sanders, but they never actually won anything. And then the Tigers were bad. And that was the Pistons were good the year before, but they weren't good now, kind of thing. So yeah, I have a thing with just Michigan sports, and I love the state of Michigan. I love vacationing there. I can't stand Michigan sports fans.
I remember that
Probably
now.
not
Jerry's
something I
Oklahoma
should
schools.
say on a sports podcast, but
Your Michigan schools. I remember that for the future now, Jim. Whenever I want to needle you about a team,
that works. That works. Hey, Newt, you should check out the podcast last night because Jerry was trolling me. Jerry,
he did a Jim impression.
No.
Yeah, pretty good. We might get some impressions a little bit later, but I believe the way this podcast is going to go is Newt and Owen have each ranked their top 5 slot players, boundary corners, and safeties. Is that how I understood the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, Owen, where do you want to go first?
Unlike Newt, I actually really like the conversation about the slot / nickel players because then you can get more creative with that. Like this is the DBs episode, but I think over half my slots are not DBs.
I don't hate the position. I just thought it was very thin in this year's draft class. Where like there are other years where it's like, man, every freaking guy I look at is like slot. And this year it seemed like there were not as many. And I know the 2 guys that you're referring to, and I really like that call out. One of them's on my list as well. So you go ahead and kick it off for what is a fun group. I just think it's a thin group this year.
Yeah. Oh, phooey. We have too many good outside corners this year. That sucks.
Well, I'm not saying it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It just made this top 5 a little more challenging.
Yeah, well, so yeah, I'll start at the bottom of mine. So at number 5 for me, and this may be controversial. I mean, we have the same guy, so
we don't.
We don't.
I just. Oh wait, let me hit enter. I changed it. I watched this player right before this show, so we don't.
Oh, you're even more controversial than I am. So
yeah.
This is the guy
he just answered one of my questions. I was going to ask if you watched Trade on Stu.
Yeah, I just watched him before this show, and I'm going to piggyback off you, because I think we're going to have a similar conversation about this.
Yeah, this is a player that I think I'm like a lower on, I guess, in particular. But for my number 5 slot defender, I'm going to go with Jalen Kilgore. He's the guy that I've heard like all the time about, like, oh, he's this great slot defender. He's like this prototypical kind of bigger safety corner linebacker hybrid type guy that plays a ton towards the line of scrimmage, and it has been in that role where I've seen tweets as well where it's like, why wasn't this the role they had Nick Emanwari playing for this team last year? And it was like because he's Kilgore's already manning it down. Like he's the guy there. A great tackler, really physical. I think I just need to see him more as a coverage guy first. I'm never going to complain about your slot defender because that's a key element to it, that you're going to be, even though you're a smaller defender, you're still aggressive, able to punch guys in the mouth and play in the run. It's a very imperative that you do that. But I think the fact that he does that as his best trade, as opposed to being more of a coverage guy, it's like, why am I sacrificing the size at that point? So he's a guy that I think has a ton of upside. It's more so I need to get more polished as a coverage player first before I can really buy into it, or at least go for someone who has more size to add to that.
Yeah, I have a late day 3 grade on Jalen Kilgore. I really don't see it. And I know that he's a guy that talked about it on Stock Exchange. I've seen his name in, top 75, even maybe like a couple top 50s. And I just can't get there with it. He seems awkward and stiff. And I know that he tested out really well. But once again, that's like explosive testing that he was able to dominate. He had like a decent short shuttle. I can't get on board with a player that is, like Owen said, supposed to be more of a nickel defender, and you're going to put him in the coverage situations a little bit more, and he's not consistent. When he flashes, he's impressive as all hell, and he uses his length really well to be disruptive at the catch point, and I really do like it when he is able to be a defender in that like 1 to 5 yards on a quick throw. I think that he does a really good job utilizing his size for that. But the minute that the play extends beyond that immediate pass, I don't think he's that great of a defender. And then furthermore, I don't even think he's that great of a slot player where I'm sorry, a run defender where, you know, I'm willing to bank on that. Then I think that he's got a poor missed tackle rate for him laying that down as his bread and butter. And he does a good job getting off of slot receivers, but his size at 6'1.5" and 210 pounds should make it where he's able to get off those guys. If he gets paired on a tight end, you know, it's still kind of an even matchup as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not there with Jalen Kilgore. I've watched 4 games for him now, 2 last year, 2 this year. I graded him as a safety this year instead of a cornerback, which helped him out a ton. But I can't get there with him. I don't know what it is. The flashes that are high, they're fun to watch. But the consistency in his tape is frustrating for me.
There's a couple players in this
one
class.
draft professor that has Kilgore as a linebacker.
I
They're
mean,
projecting him. Go ahead, Owen.
Well, I would say I knew I wouldn't feel bad about that because there's so many different players at different positions that I'm like in the same boat with you in this class in general, where I'm like, I don't see anything higher than like later day 3 film. And I can definitely, everything you said about Kilgore makes sense because I'm more trying to project if he gets used correctly and then it gets coached up a bit more. Like the pieces are there and the way he was utilized makes sense. But yeah, it's not like clean 1-to-1 move from college to the NFL based on the film at the very immediate.
Yeah, and he did play probably, I don't know how many of his snaps. 22% of his snaps were in the box, so it's not like it's foreign, like he said. So I maybe, but I think that you know, not to like foreshadow too much, but like Harold Perkins plays better as a true linebacker than Jalen Kilgore does, and he also plays better as a slot defender than Jalen Kilgore does, which is why Owen and I both have him higher on this list. So, yeah, I don't see it. No matter where I would move him, I would struggle to kind of peg him down as a player.
Okay.
Well, here let me pop my number 5 guy in then, and this is a guy. Little bit of forewarning. I only did get 1 game in on him, but I did like him from what I saw. And it's Tre'Davious Stukes out of Arizona, 6-year player. He's had a red shirt and then a medical red shirt season. Can't remember when the medical red shirt came. Actually, I think it was last year. He had his medical red shirt season, played 4 games, got injured, was out. I think he missed a little bit of this season as well. He's a guy that he does a good enough job of being a consistent cover player. I don't think he blows me away with his coverage. I like him in zone. I think as far as man coverage is concerned, he's decent. He's going to be with smaller guys, and I think that's going to suit him well. He's fast as get out. He tested at 4.33 at the combine, and I think you can see the long speed on tape, especially the recovery speed, because I did see him bite a little hard, and I think he's got some awareness issues when it comes to play action and double moves, but he does have the recovery speed to be able to make up for that. I like the way that he plays. I think that he is an okay run defender. He doesn't blow me away, but he's got the right mentality. He's got an okay missed tackle rate. I thought that he brought down players with some pretty good technique, especially going pound for pound. And he's a guy that I thought if you're going to get him on day 3 for a slot player, is a really good fit for him. The age is a little concerning with it being a 6-year. But overall, I thought he was kind of a safer player. Jalen Kilgore, if you're looking to reach for a guy that might be able to show out more, like I said, with the flash that Kilgore has, I think those are higher. But I'm just a little bit more apt with Tre'Davious Stukes right now out of Arizona.
Yeah, he's a guy that's interesting. I do like the comment we got from Peter in the chat where he's a player I do think could project to more of like a safety role as opposed to like a corner as that slot player, just from being that size and having the zone instincts. And like what makes him such a good run defender in my eyes, at least in the way that he attacks it, is his recognition to attack the play. And maybe he's not the strongest guy or the most thickly built, but he is able to recognize and then get to the play and be there early enough to disrupt it. without having to have like the kind of physical dominance to do so.
He triggers
is
downhill really well, in my opinion.
right. Yeah, I think that suits him a lot for like a strong safety role or something like that. And I do think that he does have, he's great. He's good in zone coverage. He's got really good ball production. I do think that he runs into the same issues that someone else who I haven't gotten a full watch through on, it's gotten some watch on for, which is Keontae Scott from Miami, another guy that has played into kind of a longer college career due to injuries and moving around, changing schools. They were both guys that had great years this year, had good ball production. Keontae Scott had that big pick six in the playoffs that everyone kind of remembers for him for right now. And it's kind of more aggressive, but they're going to be 25, 26 years old as rookies. And it's going to be kind of hard to overcome that, especially when you hang your hat a lot on what these guys do on their athleticism and ability to burst and get upfield and cover space more as these slot defenders.
Yeah, and I think, if you look at him, he really, like, he's their slot cornerback, but he really was their more slot safety. He's going to be a slimmer player, comes in at 190, so that's probably why he gets classified as a cornerback instead of a safety. But he played less than 1% of his snaps out on the boundary. He played a third of his snaps in the box. He's effectively a safety. And for me, maybe that kind of changes him and moves him around. Really, that's probably where I should. And after this episode, honestly, will grade him at. I think it'll give a better representation of it. But I do think that he is going to be effectively a slot safety at the next level.
He's always one of those players that I have a trouble finding. I don't have a designed slot category for traits and stuff. I should probably make one.
That's so Josh. When I got this skeleton from Josh, he had a DP tab, and I got rid of it, and I kind of want to go back to it because of the guys that we're talking about right now, because it's guys that just they just kind of struggle to kind of fit in one or the other. The difference between Stukes and Kilgore's role is it's minimal. It's effectively the same, except we talk about one as a slot, as a cornerback, and the other as a safety. But they're both playing slot, and they both play probably a pretty similar snap count in those positions, and they're probably going to be playing very similar at the next level. It's going to be their body type, which ends up defining them more, but their role, which we really should be looking at, is more of that, like you're saying, as a DB, as that kind of tertiary defensive back position.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something I'll have to play around with, because there are some things that you can factor in. I'd say it'll probably lean more heavily towards safety bias than corner bias, to be honest with you, because the skill set's a bit closer to that. But
it is.
I do think there are some things I will value more at slot than I will at safety that is more in phase with those kind of corners. But
yeah, do you want to go with your number 4? Because then my number 4 will lead into your number 3.
Yeah. So my number 4, and this is what I kind of like about this slot class, is that we're going to talk about some linebackers here, because there are some guys that have that more hybrid role. I know Newt mentioned one earlier, but I'm going to go with my other linebacker I have picked for this slot nickel role right now. That's going to be Kyle Lewis from Pitt. Another guy that is kind of that hybrid tweener safety linebacker build. Flies to the football, really aggressive, can really move, fly around in open space and make tackles. I do think that that's going to be where he has to live. It's going to be as a sub package linebacker. If you're running 3 linebackers, he is your third onto the field, just to be the extra body. And if you want to take a guy off to then go into a nickel look or a lighter look with an extra true DB, he might come off, or he might stay and you might pull off one of your bigger stack guys off, because he does show really good hips and fluidity in space, some good zone coverage, and it also well utilized as a blitzer against the pass. His emphasis comes against the pass. Against the run, he can get washed out. He's not really the strongest, which is why you want to play him in more of that space area and have him more outside of the box, kind of being the hanger, maybe either dragging from behind the play or trying to shoot a field and disrupt it first before anybody gets to him at the second level. So he's not the most traditional linebacker. Again, this is where I maybe would hope I had a true nickel or slot positional grade, because as we're grading him as a linebacker, I have him as day 3. But when looking at him through the lens of, okay, if he's going to be my nickel defender or my slot guy, the designated for when I want to have someone out in that space, I think he fits a lot better with that. And I think Mowgli agrees too.
That's not. I haven't put a full eval on Kyle Lewis. Saw him at the Senior Bowl and just saw the flashes and the brilliance of what he can be. And I think it is really well stated that you have some of these guys at that position that can be super flexible, and they allow you in a year where you're seeing in a league, I should say, where you're seeing more and more nickel coverage. If you're able to tout out there a 4-3 base defense and have a guy that can seamlessly slide into the slot and kind of back and forth. I'm not saying that I want him as a true box linebacker, but he's got a little bit more of that versatility to play in what is a 11 personnel versus 12 personnel, and lets you as a defense be a little more flexible. I think that there's a really well-defined role for that. As long as that is a nice fit. You want a guy that, and I always butcher the quote, but you want a guy that is able to play is able to feel at home at many positions, not a player that is homeless. So a guy that can slide into those positions, not a guy that doesn't have a true position defined. And I think that puts it really well. I'll talk about my number 4. I'm not going to take too much of the spotlight because I know you're really big on him. For me, it's Harold Perkins Jr. And I think to the point that you just made, Perkins Jr. he's built for that role. Not to pull the curtain away, but I know he's your number 3 as we're looking at this. I know that you really like him as that slot defender, and that's what he does well. I think when I look at him through the lens of a linebacker, that's what I find frustrating about him is I really don't see him as that traditional linebacker. And there are a lot of things that I look for within that position that I think Perkins drops the ball on. No pun intended. I don't even know if there was a pun. I don't know his dropped PBU rate, but I think for me, looking at him as a linebacker and you look at the elements of his game, I think he struggles as a wrap-up tackler. I don't think he's overly dominant in run defense when you put him in those box situations, because I think his frame coming in at 223 pounds is just not conducive for that. But when you put him out in space and you let his athleticism shine, and then you allow him to kind of be that, again, that slot defender, that's really where I think he gets an opportunity to be an effective player. And he's that guy that I think you can slide in and you can let him do some fun things off the edge, because I think he's an instinctual player. He has big playability written all over him, and a knack for the ball that I think is really special. And it's going to be something that ultimately might be a little bit of a calling card for him, for the team that drafts him.
So, Newt, what was your round grade on Harold Perkins?
He's a day 3 grade for me, early day 3 grade for me.
Okay.
Yeah, so the slots, because I don't have a specific class or grading scale for them, I'm kind of just building this list off of vibes and a little bit of the grades for respective positions. And I really wussed out here not putting Perkins at 1. He's been my favorite option for whenever someone needs hey, I need a slot
over your 1 and 2.
That's why I didn't end up doing it, but I was
gonna say that's fair.
He gives me the best vibes in my soul.
Newt Workshop may agree without.
Oh, don't get started on that. Jeez, that was the biggest shit show of the night on Friday.
I was in that chat. That was amazing.
Oh my god.
But so. Yeah, remember back when Harold Perkins was the next great edge rusher, first overall pick, 3 seasons ago, 3 years ago?
Coming off of before he got injured, coming off his sophomore season was it? It's just this guy is going to be insane.
Yeah, and I went back and watched a lot of that film because I watched him in preparation for him as linebacker, and I feel like when he got moved to linebacker initially, he fit more into that homeless category that you're talking about, Newt, where he didn't feel very comfortable. He felt really comfortable as an edge rusher because he was just they were like, hey, attack. Go go beat this tackle, beat this tight end, and find the ball, see ball, get ball. Whereas when he got put in the stack, he was asked to read and react a lot more, and he kind of struggled because if he was even a tick slow, you had a lineman in his face, and he just can't stack and try to get off of him. But then when I finally started seeing him play a bit more out in space and in the slot, I was like, okay, we're starting to put the pieces together here as to where he fits the most comfortably. He isn't the most polished coverage player, which is probably what kept him off the top of the spot for me, to be honest with you, where I think he is more athlete than pure coverage player at the moment, but he is just a phenomenal athlete in space that like you can ask him to cover guys, especially like bigger slots or tight ends, and feel comfortable with him going out and doing that.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the run defense, I think moving him out in that space really puts a band-aid over that, where and it puts him in the best possible situation to succeed at run defending, where he's going to be going against tight ends and wide receivers a lot more, or be operating in so much space where you other linebackers, you don't have the quickness and the change of direction that he does, are going to struggle when you kind of open it up more for them. They like that confined space because of that. But for him, he excels there. So if you have him as like an attacker and being able to operate with more space, and then having them like when they do the kick out blocks, and then the quarterback is going to hit the gap, and he just has to be one-on-one with the defender, and he's that one-on-one defender, you're giving yourself a better chance of making a stop there. But the thing that makes me the most happy is him as like a slot blitzer coming off that, where you're going to send a underrated part of the slot corner, slot nickel role is how much you get sent on blitzes and passing down situations. And I think that's where you're going to optimize him with what he showed in the past, some of those elite pass rush instincts, and be able to beat guys with those athleticism, the bend and the speed. He's going to be able to still utilize that, weaponize that at the NFL level when he's at the slot, while also minimizing a lot of what else he does poorly. So as a linebacker, I have him as a late round 3 grade. So I'm about the same where you're a Nate New, where like slightly off. I'm a little bit higher, but like I think that's when grading him that way, it's there. But as a nickel defender, if you're going to be in base nickel a ton, he's like, I couldn't think of a better player that skill set wise fits that. I don't know if he's polished enough right now, but he definitely skill set wise is like the perfect idea of what a nickel defender should do.
I got a player, and we're not going to talk about him in this list, but just to kind of shout him out. For me, I think the guy that really steals the show in that role is Jake Gulday out of Cincinnati. I think he's a better blitzer off the edge than he is coverage player. But I think that I would be willing to bet on his athleticism. And I know like the Harold Perkins, obviously phenomenal athlete, probably a better athlete than Gulday, but I think that Gulday still got a lot that is still like unrefined from there. And it kind of makes me reflect and you know, where would I have him on this list? And he might have honestly like kicked off my number 3 or kicked my number 3 guy down. I just think that there's still a lot of progress he needs to do, but I'd be happy to take Gulday as that nickelback or that third linebacker in a 4-3 defense if you're looking to have that flexibility.
Yeah, I agree there.
But so for me, and I'll kind of get my last guy out of the way because it's going to become pretty chalk for the top for both of us. Did you get eyes on Kamari Ramsey at all?
I did.
So you
know
hate him.
I know he played. I know he played a ton of slot prior to this season. I watched mostly this season's tape, and I liked a lot of his reps when he was.
He played over half his snaps at slot this season too.
Listen, the reps that stood out to me, especially in the 3 games that I watched, were when he was at split free safety. That was where I felt like he was the most comfortable playing.
It's called being a versatile player. That's what kicks you up on a list, is when you're able to do a lot of things.
Yeah, but I also didn't love like a lot of his reps in the slot, where like he played a lot, but like none of them popped out to me like, yeah, that's a great slot defender right there.
See, for me, I really liked him as a slot defender because I thought that he was super reliable. When you ask him to be a run stop, I'm not saying that like he's slipping guys and blowing up plays in the backfield, but I thought he was super reliable. If a ball carrier got anywhere near him, he was taking them down. I thought he was one of the better run defending slot safeties that we'll talk about, because I know our 2 guys at the top are really truly more cornerbacks than safeties. But I think that with Ramsey, you're getting a consistent player there. I really then did like a lot of the things that you saw from that coverage. I thought he sees the field really well. I thought the versatility was something that, to the point we're making about Harold Perkins Jr., and Kyle Lewis, when you have that position flexibility, it creates a lot of things. And I think Kamari Ramsey is the same way, where I don't want to have a guy that is, you know, just stuck in this spot and I have to fit him very rigidly in there. I think the fact that he can slide back to a split high safety is really advantageous. Not to the caliber, but it kind of reminds me, and more of a homer pick, but like a Javon Bullard, where I've got this guy that I can really easily slide into a slot situation. I can play three safeties, and I can then also have him kind of be a floating guy and let, for once again through the Packer lens, I can let McKinney be that center fielder. I can let Evan Williams do his thing as a strong safety, kind of coming downhill, and then Bullard can flip back to sometimes that too high or that split safety look, and it gives you flexibility. And I think Kamari Ramsey, in that same way, I don't think that he's as dominant or polished as Bullard was coming out, but I think he gives you some of that flexibility, especially when you're looking for a guy that is able to transition and kind of fit really well into that split, that too high safety role. I think with him, I probably would agree that some of his better reps do come from that too high safety, but I think that his ability to, like I said, be consistent near the line of scrimmage and then also be a reliable defender for your, slot wide receiver is a huge advantage. And with him, I don't, kind of hate that take on it, especially given the fact too, with his size, I want him to be able to pair up well if you're going to split out a big tight end. I think him being over 600 over 6 feet and over 200 pounds pairs really well with that. Whereas some of these little guys, they can have some issues at that role.
I do need to clarify and fact check this, that I had him mixed up with Bishop Fitzgerald, the other safety from USC. That I don't have a full grade on Kamari Ramsey. I thought when I saw him on your list, I was like, oh, I've already watched him. And then I went back and just checked it just now and was like, oh no, that was Bishop Fitzgerald at all. So
I was going to say he did play 20% of his snaps free safety.
Second on Ramsey, right? When you and Jake covered safeties while Newt was still coaching soccer, we covered Ramsey. So,
yeah, I got a look on him midseason. I haven't gone back to re-up that. So, I have some preliminary thoughts. I didn't have as deep, and Newt went pretty in-depth on him as a player in general. I feel like you've said everything that I kind of felt about him. And if I remembered that I was the correct USC guy, I probably would have had him on my list.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
But you were saying that our next two picks are pretty chalk. We want to just kind of power through them because we can then move on to one of the other positions. But
yeah, I'll take Avion Terrell. I'll give you the honors of talking about the number one guy. You had him there first. I just got eyes on him. I'm not going to steal your thunder with that guy. But Avion Terrell, both of us, he comes in second. I'll let you kind of pick up on this. I have him right now on my big board. He is my 4th ranked cornerback. He's 31 overall, and I'm probably a little bit lower than most, I would say, on Terrell. Do you know where you have him for you? He's got a true second round grade for me.
He's got a true second round grade for me, and he's actually my 5th corner.
Okay, and he's number 31. Brandon Cisse is number 33. So it's not like
I'll tell you exactly where he's on my board in a second.
Well, here, chime in when you hit that.
He's 38 for me.
Oh, okay, man. Look at me.
You got to play harder than me, dude.
High man on Avion Terrell. Would you look at that? So Terrell, I think what you're going to see with him is a very sound and fundamental player when it comes to the nuances of playing cornerback and playing both sides of the game. He played most of his snaps this year out wide, and he did that in last season too. 70% of the snaps are out there. The two things that I think are going to draw him inside are going to be, number one, his size. He comes in under 5'11", 186 pounds. So he is a smaller player for the position. Number two, on the opposite side, he's a phenomenal run defender. He's a really consistent and well-rounded run defender. And this is from him as a boundary cornerback. He's found a way to be an impactful player on running downs and done a really good job of kind of setting the tone and the expectation for what that should look like for those players. So I think with both of those, you're going to see him slide inside. I think that he's got phenomenal athleticism and he has really good speed to his game. I know he didn't test for agility and the 40. But I think when you look at him on film, I'm not really concerned about that. I loved what I saw with his ability to be disruptive at the catch point. I think that translates really well to some of those quick hitting slants and in breaking routes. I wish he had an interception. I think it's gone 2 seasons and he hasn't had a pick. And that's something where it's like, it's like one of the more translatable things. So I would like to see that the production actually with the takeaway, but he's found a way to be disruptive at the catch point. He had a forced incompletion percentage of like 17.3%. Phenomenal mark. If you're taking a look at guys, if you're double digits for forced incompletion, you're really good there. And once again, he's doing this as a boundary cornerback. So I think when you make that slide inside, he's going to be able to really over-exaggerate the things that he does well as a coverage cornerback. I think that he's going to meet the size profile that is going to be best suited for him. And I think that run defense for him really has an opportunity to show out well.
I could see a world where an NFL team plays him outside. That he isn't just a slot guy.
He's not super. I mean, Jair Alexander is smaller than him.
Yeah.
So
I've seen smaller corners play outside.
Yeah. I'm not saying that he can't. I'm just saying that I think he's really well suited to play slot.
Yeah. Jimmy, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to ask. So, Owen, you said that Terrell was 38th on your board.
Yes.
What defensive backs, let me rephrase that, what corners do you have higher than Terrell?
So there will be all guys we're going to talk about today, but Delane McCoy.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Delane McCoy, Chris Johnson, and then my number one player on the slot list in D'Angelo Pons, I have higher than Avion Terrell.
Got it. Okay.
So
you may
with that,
your ranking of Terrell may be the lowest that I've seen up to this point. So
I mean, he's tied grade wise with Pons, and that's like half a point behind Johnson. So like you could tell me he's cornerback 3, and I wouldn't fight you.
Got it.
I think I just saw like a bunch of buzz about like what Vikings at 18 grabbing Terrell.
Which I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I think it's redundant, but that's just me.
So if Terrell and Jeremiah Love are there for the Vikings at 18, what do you do?
Jeremiah Love.
You love.
It's Jeremiah Love, right?
He's a better player. Like it's not like, Love is a running back and Terrell is a cornerback. I've got Jeremiah Love like, I don't know, 20 spots higher on my board. That's not a question for me.
Right.
Yeah, I'm what I'm saying, like with Terrell and the way this cornerback class is focused, I think that he could, if he's a top 20 pick, I'm not opposed to the idea. I just like I like these other players a little bit higher, but I'm not. This is very fluid. The corner room is very fluid for me here,
right.
Even with some of the guys past Terrell. I think there was a bit of a drop off there, and I think he's like the last stopgap before that.
Got it.
But moving on to Pons, to wrap up our slot defenders list, it's my number one player, Newt's number one player. I mean, if you want to learn who D'Angelo Pons is, I know this is 2 seasons back, but throw on the tape against him against Washington, and he just suns Denzel Boston, who's 6'4", 200 pounds, and he's 5'9", 180.
Not even.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he weighed in at the combine. It was 5'9", 183, which probably bulked up a bit. He didn't do any testing other than the vertical jump, which he jumped 43.5 inches, which is insanity.
Yeah, it's huge.
He played exclusively as like an outside corner, which was really odd.
He played less than 1% of his snaps as a slot cornerback.
At 5'9", it's ridiculous. And like my take going into the season was like, is he an outside corner? Question mark? Nah, I don't think so after this year. I think I'm more comfortable with him being a slot guy specifically, but a high-end slot where you're not worried that if you're in man coverage and they have a switch and he gets pushed outside, that you're worried that he's going to struggle when out on the boundary. He has that experience. Absolutely punch you in the mouth, pit bull type mentality. Nobody told D'Angelo Pons that he's 5'9", 180. They forgot. And that's kind of where I'm a bit higher than him because on him than I think other people are. Why I have him above like an Avion Terrell. Most people knock him a ton for his run defense and tackling. Legitimately, I think a lot of that stuff, especially when you're going to be a corner, is about mentality and just willing to put your body out there as a lighter guy. And while I wouldn't say his technique or his play strength is the best, just the fact that he fires and attacks so aggressively and so quickly, and once he gets into the slot more, it's going to be even better when he's able to shoot upfield and make those plays more often than when he was at corner. I do think that's going to be a thing that's going to improve when he kicks inside. So for me, he's not a bad run defender in my eyes, but that's a little bit of projection as well. And he's just a smooth coverage player, understands his responsibilities. When whether it's going to be shallow or deeper zones, I do think I trust him more as a shallower guy. He has that quick twitch to be able to man guys up at the line of scrimmage, is feisty, will punch them in the chest as a press guy. He does everything you want. It's just unfortunate that he's put into a Mighty Mouse type of body.
Yeah. No, I've really got not a ton to add. If anything, I do think that like with his frame, you're going to see him get caught up on blockers more often than I would like, and more often than probably he would like, because if he's free, he's making the tackle in run defense. I think he set the tone really well in the national championship game. First drive, tackle for a loss right off the edge on an outside zone run, and it was just like this is the kind of game that he's going to have. He's going to dominate the Miami defense, and he did. But I do think that he can get tied up because of his length, because of his strength, and can get a little bit demolished in those situations. And I think that he lacks a little bit of disruptive nature at the line. I think that he is just, and you put it like at the catch point, he doesn't take shit from anyone. Like, he will be bigger than the tallest receiver on the field. He makes Mike Evans look like a small child at the catch point because of the mentality and the aggressiveness that he plays with. But at the line, off the snap, I do kind of see him able to get pushed off a little bit more. And I think a lot of that is going to come from some of that static strength. He's not able to kind of generate that with his frame. But guy, for me, I absolutely loved everything Owen said. I'm right on board with.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. If you don't think he's a good player,
a good football player. Who was the guy that Atlanta drafted like 3 years ago? He was the third, the third, played
Clark Phillips.
Phillips the third. I think he's kind of kept reminding me of that in terms of like the size deficiencies, but how well he plays. But I think he's like even like a more souped up version of that.
He reminded me a ton of, and this will be a name, Mick Robertson from Louisiana Tech. He was a 4th round pick of the Raiders. Was another guy who played like outside corner. He was outside corner opposite L'Jarius Sneed at Louisiana Tech. But he was one of those guys that like he was built like a slot and just would punch you in the mouth. Like, yeah. He was gonna find enough time to play on the field. But yeah, that was kind of like in that same mold. The players I really liked in the past. Do you want to go corners next or safeties? I feel like corners, I'm going to have less controversial takes. So I don't know if you want to do that towards the tail end or get right into the punches.
I'm going to have a very controversial take for corner. Let's go. I think safeties is going to be a little bit. I don't think. You think you're going to be pretty controversial in safeties? Is there one player that you hate? There's one player you hate, isn't there?
No, I think I'm just high on at least 2 of the players on this list.
All right, well, let's go, because I actually haven't watched 2 of the guys on your list. I just didn't get time to, so I'm more so interested to hear about them. If you want to, do you want to kick off your safety list?
Yeah. So first on this list for me, and I kind of laid them out in our spreadsheet here, where I like them the best, and that's Bud Clark, the safety from TCU, another kind of like elder statesman of college football, where he is pushing 6 years in that level of competition and had a great season. He was the dude. He popped off in that first, hype is high. It's North Carolina football, Bill Belichick's first game in college football. And Bud Clark has a pick 6. I think he had another pick in that game. Was just all over the field. Was just white on rice for those receivers there. And he is that kind of guy. He is a big play waiting to happen. Good athlete, kind of free safety type, where you're not in love with him as a run up and play the box kind of tackler type guy, but when he's asked to play with everything in front of him, keep the field in front of him, plant and drive on a catch point, in front of him and then break on a ball. That's where he excels at it. I think he's a little bit stiff when it comes to like man coverage stuff, which is why I think he'd fit better as a free safety than a strong safety, where I'd rather have that guy, the strong safety flowing between playing as like a close line scrimmage, coming up, playing that man coverage type of guy. So I think if anything, he could potentially be the single high. I know Randall likes him a lot as a single high option, but for me, he is just a step too slow to play that. I think as a split field free safety, that's where he's gonna be most comfortable. So, Bud Clark, turnover machine, high impact player. It's just gonna be more so like the smaller, minute details that like don't round him out as much. I think are where I'm gonna be lower on him than other people.
This is me because I haven't watched him yet. I just got his name and the stats that populate from both the combine and PFF. So I've actually got a couple questions because, like I said, I haven't watched him at all. So I see the speed 4.41. So I kind of see where you're talking about. I don't know if I like that speed profile as a single high. And I know instincts can make up a little bit, a fair amount for that speed. But I kind of see that essence of it. I see the ball skills with the 6 pass breakups, 4 picks. It says here he played like 40+% of his snaps from the slot. Was there a reason that you saw him more as that too high or that split free safety rather than the slot player?
Yeah, there was a lot of plays there where I like him with more space to operate and read and react, where he was able to read and react to stuff in front of him. When he was down towards the line of scrimmage, that's where he got that pick 6 against North Carolina. There was a lot of plays where he did make impactful stuff happen there. So I'm not opposed to him being a lower, like kind of close to the line of scrimmage. I do think if he was in a split safety defense, you could technically have him as your strong safety and be fine. But for me, when he was close to the line of scrimmage, he lacked a lot of physicality to like kind of like what you're talking about, D'Angelo Pons, where when he's matched up with bigger guys, he can get blown off the ball. He's a safe tackler, but he's a lot more drag and hope and pray that he brings him down.
Ankle biter,
yeah. He will make the tackle. It just never looks the prettiest. And if there are guys like Derrick Henry in his way, I wouldn't trust him to come down and fill that gap as a DB, which I guess you wouldn't for most DBs, but like him especially, I think he was kind of lacking there. So he's a guy that I like a lot for the quality of what his tape is. It's just going to be like, where is his proper fit going to be? Also, I just realized I do have a guy that I'm significantly lower on that isn't in my top 5 that will make this a little bit controversial. So
I was looking, I think, at that player.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Okay,
we'll get to it.
I think I know who it is. My number 5 is Zakee Wheatley. He's probably the most recent guy that I watched in terms of someone I knew was going to be more of a traditional either split or single high safety. I think if you look at the reps and what he was able to do at Penn State this last year, you see a guy that, in my opinion, is really well-rounded. I think that he is going to be someone that you can ask to move downhill really well. I think that he's a very fluid and smooth player. That's the very first thing that I wrote about him. I think his back pedal is effortless. I think that he changes direction really well, and I think that's what allows him to trigger downhill as well as play as a split high safety. I think the tackle technique in space I really liked. I think he does need to clean up. I think I want to say some consistency with that, but it was the form that he had with it and how he breaks down players out in space. I really did like it and appreciate that when I was able to see it on film. It looks like it's really well coached. He's not looking to blow it up. He's looking to be a really smart player. I think that also he had a really solid display of ball skills, had a pick and had a pass breakup this last year, but was able to, beyond that, being impactful player at the point, even after the wide receiver got hands on the ball. He had a double-digit forcing completion percentage, and a lot of that comes from his timing and his ability to kind of have an understanding for where a quarterback's going to go at with that. I think he does that because he plays a little bit soft in coverage. He's more of a bend but don't break kind of guy. And I think that his play strength is a little questionable. I love, like I said, his mentality and his ability to trigger downhill. And I think the elements for his game that you see him kind of missing the tackles are going to come from his play strength. Like I said, the technique and the IQ is there. I think that there's some things that are missing with his play strength. He's a little bit, I don't want to say thin, but he's 6'2", just over 200 pounds. And I think that 200 pounds was a pretty generous combine mark because he does look a little bit more slender on tape. The other thing is I don't know kind of like where I see him. I said, split split free safety. I could see him as a box safety too, but the strength issue comes up. And I think that he is a guy that I would love to see into the mind of a defensive coordinator as they're evaluating him, because I'd love to know what's kind of going through their head, because I don't know, with some of these guys. And I know you talked about with Bud Clark, like, hey, this is why I have him as a split high free safety. And I do that with a handful of guys that we're talking about. Zakee Wheatley, I'm struggling to do that with. And so I think for me that as far as a projection kind of hurts him a little bit.
Yeah, I'm relatively lower end Zakee Wheatley. I know this has been a conversation when we do like Bills mock drafts. And Jim is constantly like, "Hey, would you like to take Zakee Wheatley here?" And I'm like, "Not really. I
don't know about that one, Jared. Jim.
I don't know about that one, Jim.
Maybe not, Jim.
Like, there's a lot of players, and I think it's just because there's other players that I like. I like what Wheatley does, but there's players that I like that do the same things better. Like even when looking at like the height, weight, speed type dudes, like AJ Halsey is awesome. Maybe not as much in coverage, but like if I want a guy who's flying around and making some bigger hits in space, or if I'm looking for a guy that's gonna be more of that coverage player and is more comfortable, like you were saying, as a single high or a split field, there are guys who fit more cleanly into different roles than I think Wheatley does.
Halsey and Wheatley are close for me. I think Halsey, you get this maniac that is just looking to destroy
He's
people.
Awesome.
It's so much fun to watch.
He's just a missile.
Yes, the problem is, like, I think, God, what game was I watching? Was it Texas A&M? I think it was Texas A&M. Like, there was one play he came in and just completely whiffed at the catch point, and it turned into a touchdown. It's like, what are we doing here, dude? Yeah. And then, like, near the end of the game, comes in and absolutely lights the guy up. And it's like, that play was amazing. But he did the exact same thing on both plays, and like one turned out well, and one was just absolutely awful. So
yeah, he was little boying Florida a lot.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
Yeah, he's not the best safety, but he's entertaining.
He's very entertaining. He's actually kind of like a little bit below Halsey. He's, I don't know, like 15 spots on my big board below Halsey. I do like him. I think he's fun. But I think that he's just there are big concerns, speed, inconsistencies, and those things as well.
Yeah, well, Halsey is in my fourth safety, but a guy who is someone who's not on your list at all. And listen, I think I've been like the lone, like on top of the hilltop. I guess no, someone in the Draft Professor group chat said they had 3 Arizona defenders as top 50 players, and I'm assuming this is one of them.
What if it's not though?
It would be crazy if it was.
Is Traden Stukes a top 50 player for them then?
If it's not my number 4 safety in Genesis Smith, then maybe it is.
There's a lot of people that are high on Genesis Smith. Now, I don't get a safety with a 20% missed tackle rate going in the top 100. I know Jerry commented, right, because we talked about that on the Bills podcast. I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There's so many people that are high on him. Like, the number of people that are taking Genesis Smith over Husky and Wheatley in round 3. Now, like Newt, I know that you said, okay, you said that, okay, you're not as high on Wheatley, but like Dale has Wheatley as safety 4, right? He took Newt, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Dale take Wheatley in round 2 of the last mock that we did?
I can't remember.
If it wasn't round 2, it was really early in round 3.
It was something to that effect. I got my safety board kind of blew up after the Harold Perkins thing. But yeah, I think that sounds about right. I want to say you're right. Probably somewhere 50, 60.
Yep. Yep.
So I have to try to sell you on this then, Jim, huh?
No. Well, I mean, you can sell me because I'm going to buy it, right? I'll buy whatever you tell me, right? This, like, you sold me on Omar Cooper Jr. yesterday, right? I
Well,
mean-
that one's that's a layup of anything. You know, we're talking about Omar Cooper Jr.
Mutombo's about to come in and smash that shit out of the air.
But for Genesis Smith, like I get it. I get the 20% missed tackle rate, and the misses are ugly. They are uggo on film. They look terrible. He bends at the hip. He whiffs hard on a lot of tackles. When like, what makes him even more frustrating is that he is a good run defender in terms of angles and positioning and taking tracks from a single high look to get and put himself in position to make tackles near the line of scrimmage from 15 yards off the ball. Like he's in position to make plays and he just whiffs all the time, which is crazy and infuriating. But I'm going to be honest with you. If I like a guy because he can play, he's an athlete enough to be able to play the single high, can create turnovers, is a great coverage player in the back end there, can come up and be a man coverage player because of that same athleticism. And you're telling me I have to live with him being a bad tackler, but he's going to live 20 yards away from the line of scrimmage every single play? I might make that trade-off and be like, okay, we can tweak some of the tackling technique and maybe get that down to like 10%, which is still terrible, but like better than 20. If we can get
Terrible.
that,
He's had 3 straight years with a 20% missed tackle rate, and you're like, you can fix him.
I can.
Let's put this in perspective. On my board, Kamari Ramsey makes everyone look terrible. But besides Ramsey, the best missed tackle rate is 8.3%. So,
well, that's like the cutoff in the NFL. 8% is like if you're higher than 8%, you're bad. If you're below that, you're fine.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the other thing though. A lot of these safeties. So I haven't put eyes on Genesis Smith yet. A lot of these safeties, when they are making a tackle, there's one of two things. They're either kind of clipping the running back as they are making their cut or kind of getting them there, or they're expected to make a hit on one of the most athletic positions on the field, a wide receiver out in space. And that's a challenge that I will recognize is, probably higher than most on the level of difficulty. So I do try to have some understanding for like an open field tackle and a dynamic wide receiver is not the easiest thing to do.
No, these ones are. I can't defend these ones.
I'm not trying to defend Genesis Smith. I'm trying to put a little perspective on this tackle rate.
I can't remember which game I was watching, but there was one where he had dude like at least 3 or 4 times the same game where he's flying downhill from a single high look, which he is again. Everything else, phenomenal single high safety prospect. One of the few that can truly play the single high and be comfortable day one coming in the NFL with athleticism, ball skills, all that stuff. But he would take the best track possible. He'd fit the run beautifully, flying with a ton of speed, line the dude up, put a shoulder on his leg, and then just fall off of him. And it's like, if you just wrapped up a little bit, you would had him in for a tackle for loss, and now he gets 5 yards. And like, it would never be to the detriment of like a big touchdown or something. But like, it was just always like, if you could just wrap it up, I would be. If he could tackle, he'd maybe pushing day one for me. Like, he is that level of player. I love Genesis Smith. But, like, it's just he's such a terrible tackling grade. It's like, I can't – he's, like, top of round 3 grade now.
I got to think about this, and maybe this is more for Jim. But, he's an underclassman, like true junior. Is there a connection there then? Are you thinking between, like, hey, this guy must be hearing something from the NFL in terms of, like, their Bledsoe grades that, like, hey, he's got an opportunity to be, I don't know, a top 100 player, and that's why he's coming out? Or is he just looking to make the step? Because I would assume with his acumen at Arizona that he's going to be making some money there. I got to think that his step to the NFL is going to be a business decision for him as much as it is an opportunity to move.
He got advice.
You're right. That's what I'm saying.
But so ultimately,
this is where you shine, Jim. This is like your bread and butter.
Right. So Arizona's Big 12, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's, I guess, here's how I do this. do you think the player was going to stay at Arizona if he stayed in school? Or do you think he goes into the portal? Because to me, this is the Connor Lew discussion all over again. Okay. So Connor Lew, right, from Auburn, like, let's say he was going to leave Auburn. Like, he knew that this was his last year at Auburn. So he has a choice. He either enters the portal and goes to another school injured, probably not going to get any money because he's injured, or he goes to the NFL, right? But meaning he already has a change in his life. So if we look at that for Genesis Smith, it's like if he knew he wasn't going to stay, he's either going to make a change to the NFL or he's going to make a change to another school. And in some ways, it's just better to make the leap to the NFL because the NFL would rather draft a 21-year-old safety in round 5 than Bud Clark, right? Like Genesis Smith, Bud Clark, you're going to get more mileage out of Smith, right? Because he's got at least 2 years in Bud Clark, maybe 3, right?
Yeah.
3, yeah.
So, like, because again, like, there's a lot of people to take Bud Clark in round 3 a month and Keontae Scott in round 3 a month. I don't think either player is going in round 3 based on their age and positional value.
No, probably not.
No, that's fair.
Newt, you wanna tell me why you hate Dylan Thieneman?
We literally have him one spot different on our top 5. You have him 2. I have him 3. Or wait, is that it? I have him. Yeah, I have him 3 of them 2. What is going on here?
Why do you hate Dylan Thieneman?
Why? Hold on. Why are we skipping over the player before him?
Because I just did my no. Did you do your 4 yet?
No, I haven't done my 4.
You're right. I'm sorry. I apologize. Why do you hate Michael Taft?
I don't. Where's Michael Taft on your board? Here's the question. Where is he on your board?
He's one of 2 second-round grades in the safety position I have. He is player number.
Damn it, you have him higher.
Yeah, I love him. I've been high on him. He's been my guy. He's 74th on my board.
Oh shit! You give out 1 million second-round grades.
Well,
he's number 68 on my board.
Third round, Newt. Go back to math class.
What?
Well, but he's a second-round grade.
Third round. Go back to math class.
No. A second-round grade is different than a second-round draft pick.
Fair enough. Okay.
If Owen, I was going to say, how many first-round grades do you have, Owen?
Okay. Well, the question is, do you want me to? Am I including the weighted portion of this?
I don't know.
Like film grades, no. I don't have that. I have like 16 first-round film grades, but when I adding the position multiplier, I am up to 29.
Okay, so 29. All right, that's fair. But like, you still have like a fair amount of second-round grades then.
I think the strength of this class is the very, very tippy top.
Okay,
and then it's going to be kind of barren when you get to the teens to early 20s, and then
like 50.
The second, third round
is
going to be where we're going to get your hits.
All right, I got a third round grade on him. He's number 68 on my board. I like Taft. He was a top 50 player for me for summer scouting. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. I think that you saw him so much at Texas in single high, and it changed a little bit more down the stretch. But he played that role really well for what he was asked, but he was clearly not built to be a single high safety. But I think with that, you see a guy that the instincts and that IQ is able to really shine. Now, there are times that he got burned. I watched him against Ohio State, and when he had to, kind of pick and choose his battles, it really seemed like he was able to be fooled with a little misdirection from the eyes of the quarterback. And I know you've got him classified more as a strong safety. I like him as a split free safety. I think that's kind of where he's an opportunity to shine. I don't like him as much when you get him closer to the line of scrimmage. I like it when he's got space in front of him and he's able to see the field a little bit better, because I think that he's a really good cover safety. I think that he is very fluid as a defensive back, and the coverage and the trigger onto a player is something that I really like. So I think that when you take a look at the IQ, the fluidity, the short area quickness to kind of change direction, trigger downhill. It's going to be something that for me, I think is going to be an element of his game that allows him to be a really good split free safety. And one where I want to see him more in coverage situations than I want to see him necessarily near the line of scrimmage. But he's safety 4 for me. He's safety 3 for you. But it sounds like we have him on our boards and even on our safety rankings right around the same spot.
Yeah, I like to call it for a split field free safety just because I do think that I was worried about how fast he was going to run, and then he ran faster than somebody we're going to be talking about coming up. That is kind of be a point of contention. But I put strong safety because I feel like I like him a lot when it comes to attacking downhill. When he's in those shorter zones, like you said, keeping things in front of him and driving on, I think he does really well there. So not to belabor a lot of the points you did, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he could be a split safety, free safety, or strong safety in that case. And I think if you're going to run a single high system, he'd be better as the strong safety. But I think he's more scheme versatile from that. I think the only place I really am kind of lower on him is his man coverage ability, which kind of showed up in the Senior Bowl 101s. But I'm just not the biggest fan of his stickiness and ability to have recovery speed in man coverage.
That's fair. Do you want me to talk about Thieneman first then?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So
why do you hate Dylan Thieneman?
I hate Dylan Thieneman. Once again, I bet he's higher on my board than he is on yours. That's the thing about this is just I have another safety up there. So
yeah.
Thieneman's a top 50 player for me. Maybe he's not. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little bit lower on Thieneman. I got called out for that when I posted my top 64. He's a guy for me that I had him a lot higher. I saw a ton of the hype around him being a top 32 guy. And I think that when he was at Purdue, you had an opportunity to see him in a lot of situations where he was asked to kind of like be that guy. And he was asked to kind of like dominate and take over and be the dude on the defense. And then at Oregon, he was still a really good defender, but you lost a little bit of that sparkle from him. And I think that he didn't shine quite as bright. And with him, I liked his ability. For me, he is like the quintessential single high free safety. I think the speed is there. I think the IQ is there. I think that he moves really well downhill when he's asked to, when the play's in front of him. I noted this against Notre Dame in 2024. So I just happened to throw this game on when I was doing summer scouting. He lined up regularly 25 yards off the line of scrimmage. It was the wildest formation I've ever seen. He's 25 yards off the line of scrimmage, and he is flying downhill on damn near every down because Notre Dame is just pounding the rock against Purdue. And it was, one of those things where like this guy is doing this down in and down out, just running 20-yard wind sprints over and over and over. And it kind of showed a lot about his character and the elements that he plays with in there. But I think that he's really solid at the catch point. I think that, like I already mentioned, the IQ with him, he has a really firm understanding of the game when it's in front of him. I don't love him necessarily actually as a run defender, and I think that's where I kind of fall off a little bit more than others. I think he takes odd routes when he's in pursuit, where he kind of will over pursue and get caught out of position. I think he gets blown away way too easily by tight ends, given the way that he plays in that mentality. He's not, what I would call initially like a small player. He's not big by any means, but like I wouldn't expect for him to get blown away by tight ends. And I think that like the missed tackle rate, when you take a look at the film and the technique, it's not like, oh man, like I love the way that he approaches it and the way that he grabs it. He's got a really good missed tackle rate, but I think that is more so his ability to just kind of be prominent at the catch point and then be able to wrap up right then and there. So I like Thieneman. He's a top 50 guy on my board, but I don't have the first round hype that others do for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's 48th on my board. So, and he drops a little bit because the safety multiplier have is a -1 where they lose points on their grade. Than if anything, I do like him a bit more as a run defender. It's mostly because of his tackling and his tenacity, where I do think he can make up for that. And I think you're right. He takes some weird angles. I think he tries to trust his athleticism a little bit too much. But I still think he's versatile and transcendent for alignment. So I think if you want to put him at strong safety, you'd be fine. If you just coach him a bit more there. But I think, free safety would be probably where he best fits, and could be a guy that if you a sneaky earlier draft pick than most people expect, even with after the testing there. So, he was my number 2 safety. You said a lot. Obviously, number 1, we're going to talk. We have one more guy in safety really kind of break down here, but number 1, obviously, it's Caleb Downs. We're not going to argue about that.
No,
right?
No, that's Caleb. He's a good football player. Everyone,
hot take: Caleb Downs, good football player.
Where is he? Just out of quick, curious conversation. Where is he on your big board?
He is because, like I said, safety kind of loses a step.
I was like, give me the adjusted grade.
He is 11th with the adjusted.
Oh my God, you hate him. Oh. My God, what are we gonna do? I
also hate Jeremiah Love because with the adjusted grade, he's 10th.
Double digits for both of those guys.
Yeah, I know. That's terrible.
Downs is my number 1 player on my board, and that's with a little bit. I don't probably go as much as Owen for the grade adjustment, but I do have a grade adjustment. Caleb Downs is still my number 1 overall player. He is phenomenal. Safety. I know I kind of had conversations even with you around hey, is this a Kyle Hamilton level type player? I think that he is. I think that he is that good of a football player. But
yeah, I mean, without the player, he's my number 3 player on my board behind Reese and Love. So I mean,
there. But there's an elephant in the room. So if you guys were following along, Thienemann's 2 for Owen, he's 3 for me. Caleb Downs is 1 for both of us. That means for me, I have my number 2 guy, which is Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Owen, why do you hate Emmanuel McNeil-Warren? I'd love for you to kind of tell us that.
This is tough because I am oftentimes the Mac guy. I love my Mac players. He was a player. I had a 3rd-round grade with him coming out of the summer when me and Jim did a whole episode just breaking down prospects from the Mac that could come out. He was like the crown jewel. When Jim was like, I'm not going to give you any list. You make the list, but make sure you cover Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. He's the one guy that everyone knows, which I did. And I had a 3rd. He was the highest graded guy significantly. And to be honest with you, he didn't do much to improve my grade on him from there. He's my safety 7. I saw a player that I liked and had a lot of fun plays. He's a good zone coverage when it comes to attacking guys. I do like him in man coverage, especially when he's carrying guys vertical up the seam. I do think he could come down and play that. So I do think he's more of a free safety-ish. Run defending, takes good angles, but is, again, not the best tackler for me, where he's like an ankle grab and drag kind of guy. I'm not going to fall in love with that. He's better than Genesis Smith. I'll give him that. I just had question marks about the athleticism, which I normally balk at when it comes to these. When that's the big knock on Mac players, like where are they as athletes in lower level competition, yada yada yada. I genuinely didn't think he was that great of an athlete, and then on tape, and I thought maybe he's going to be like exclusively a split safety type of guy, not really positional versatile. He can carry guys up the seam in man coverage. But that might be the case, that it's a lower level competition, guys who aren't as fast that he's being asked to carry. And then he runs slower than Michael Taft at the combine. So, I mean, I kind of feel validated a little bit.
Michael Taft, we're still talking about as a guy where he played really well he was a single high safety at Texas, the majority of his career there. And he played really well in that role because of his acumen, because of IQ. And it's a 0.02 second difference.
Right.
So yes, he was slower than Taft. No doubt. One of the big things for me about McNeil-Warren is you take a look at a guy 6'3.5", definitely a little bit more slender, 200 pounds. And I think that's going to go to some of the things where you take a look at missed tackles. So I will 100% agree in that sense, but his ability to be disruptive at the catch point, I think, is going to be something that sets him apart from other safeties. I think that he triggers to the pass really well through a high IQ. When you take a look at his forced incompletion percentage, 33%. Literally,
it's good. It's great.
like 1 out of 3 opportunities that he had to force an incompletion, he did. It's a ludicrous mark to take a look at him within. You take a look at the interceptions and PBUs, and like they're okay, but I think it's what he does. Once again, triggering to the player and how he can be impactful after the catch is made to disrupt and ultimately force the incompletion from there. I have written down long speed can be an issue, especially if he is out of position. I think he does a really good job of keeping himself in position, though. I think it goes back to that IQ, but the recovery speed will be an element that he's going to be scrutinized over. Missed tackle rate. I thought he was a little bit high-waisted in his back pedal. I thought he was able to still move okay. It did look a little awkward, and I might have written that down and kind of thought that just because he's a taller player in general. And I think no matter what, if you're 6'3" versus like a D'Angelo Pons 5'9", you're gonna look more high waisted in your back pedal. I think that just might be it. But I still do I like his ability to tackle in the open field. I just think that he is going to lack some of the play strength to be able to consistently do it. He kind of comes into me. We mentioned someone earlier that it was very similar. It was Key Wheatley, where the mentality and the technique is there, but I think the play strength in the frame sometimes will, cause him to kind of struggle with that. But for me, he's going to be my safety 2. He's 10 spots above McNeil. I'm sorry. He's 10 spots above Thieneman on my big board.
So that's crazy to me. I couldn't. The problem I have with him is he's one of the few MAC players I'll ever put the stamp on, questioning athleticism, questioning physicality at that level of competition. And the reason I invoked Taft is because Taft played a bunch of free safety and single high, but we all kind of said he's not doing it because he's fast. He's doing it because he's smart and has the command of that defense, and he's faster than McNeil Warren. So he's going to have I agree. Great ball skills. Love his ball skills. There's nothing about the level of competition that changes how you can anticipate balls and attack the throws. Maybe rotation rate and throw power, but not much. Even when he's playing at Western Kentucky and stuff, he was still amazing at that. It was just a lot of the questions I had can go back to level competition. He looked a lot better against that than he would if he was in the SEC. So prove me wrong, I guess. I would say that. I do think he's tied with Husky. So there is 6'7" tied. So you could tell me they're flipped and he'd be closer to this top 5 than I guess maybe safety 7. So made it sound a little bit more dramatic. But comparing him to Thieneman, I would have Thieneman 10 times out of 10.
Nice. Do you want to read through our boundary guys? Because I think there's 2 guys that are going to stand out for conversation. But other than that, we're actually pretty close.
It's Neil versus Cisse, right?
No, I got Cisse at 4.
It's
Neil versus Johnson.
Yeah. I have Cisse at 5, Abney at 4, Chris Johnson at 3, McCoy at 2, and then Delane at 1.
I have Neil at 5, Cisse at 4, Abney at 3, Delane at 2, and McCoy at 1. So we flipped McCoy and Delane. Those 2 guys are 2 spots apart on my big board. They're very close to one another. I get the argument for Mansour Delane. I think they're both really good football players. I think they're different football players, but it's not a hot take to have both those guys as a round 1 grade. And then Abney and Cisse are both going to be in that exact same order where it's Abney, then Cisse. It's you have Chris Johnson 3. I don't have him on my top 5. And I have Julian Neal 5. And you don't have him on your top 5. So yeah. I have Chris Johnson for me. He is my cornerback 9. Really? I've got a 3rd round grade on him. He's number 56 overall on my board. Sell me on Chris Johnson.
Yeah, so Chris Johnson, I struggled to find tape on him, to be honest with you. I had to go and really dig around to find some stuff.
Too. San Diego State has their tape on lockdown. It's in a vault somewhere.
Yeah, it's under lock and key for some reason. So I'll just read out what I have written on for him. He's an aggressive physical press man corner who has a lot of athleticism and technique, especially man to carry receivers down the field, across the field or on sharper cutting routes. He showed phenomenal ball production in 2025. It took a big step in that area. I still think you can see this in a bit in the one-on-ones and Senior Bowl where like he needs a bit of work getting his head around when there's those one-on-ones, like contested catch situations. But for the most part, when it came to breaking up balls and attacking the catch point in 2025, he did a significantly better job than he did in 2024 because I had to go back and watch a little bit more 2024 tape on him than I would have normally liked to for some of these guys, which kind of helps a bit with seeing their growth. But he was a lot more in those past seasons. He still had good production, but it was a lot more of he's just the ball finds him, whereas he was finding the ball in 25, getting more of that ball hawking notion there. He's a plus athlete, which was confirmed at the combine. He can sink and flip his hits in man with enough recovery speed to stay in hip pockets. He can be too eager to attack the run and can get sucked in on the outside and compromise the outside contain. So I do think he's physical and aggressive against the run, but he'll sacrifice his outside contain a bit on plays. That got him into trouble a bit there. He's not particularly long, and he didn't measure that long at the combine either. I think my main area of concern is going to be when he's in zone, the planting drive to come out and attack the ball and the catch point in zone specifically. So while I do think his ball skills and man coverage have gotten significantly better, I do think his zone skills, especially when it comes to getting to the ball, getting to the catch point a tick quicker to make some incompletions as opposed to just getting the tackle and allowing the 6, 7, 8 yards that he's going to get. I can't get away from that number apparently. That can still grow there. But if you need a guy who's going to be a dynamic athlete, can bump and run with guys, is physical, plays longer than he actually measured in that, I do think he's a guy that you can play on the outside and be comfortable with that. And we can work on those zone instincts. Like he's still fine in zone, but it's just like he's not going to create as many splash plays or pass breakups as you'd like for him to do, especially as a lower zone. Deeper zones, I can kind of see because it's kind of quasi man coverage anyway.
What games did you watch from Chris Johnson? I'm very curious now.
I don't think I wrote these ones down because I was watching them back to back to back. I forgot to write them down.
Oh, I need this information because I have written down little to no press man experience. I have him as like a negative, not a negative grade, but like a below average grade for that. And so for me, if that's something where like it does show up in certain games, like I want to see it because I want to be able to evaluate it because the 2 games that I saw, I didn't see it, and it made me concerned because he is a smaller player, because he is lighter, and like he's playing more off man and zone as a result of that.
So in 2025 I watched Washington State and Cal, and then 2024 I watched. One second, I have these ones written down. In 2024 I watched Washington State and what was the other one? I said I had this written down, and it's all over. It's not very organized with that. I have Washington State and Oregon State from 2024.
Okay, I watched Nevada and Fresno State, so I'm gonna watch the Cal tape.
Cal tape's fun. The Washington State one I watched just because I knew, especially the 2024 tape against Kyle Williams and John Mateer. Like
that makes sense.
He played such little high level competition. Like even for San Diego State, sometimes they play a higher level team. Like they played Boise State in 24, but they don't have like a crazy receiver. It was because Ashton Jeanty was single man carrying them in the college football playoffs.
Yeah.
So I was wanting to watch that Washington State game because that game, and then maybe in San Jose State the year before against Nick Nash. Like there's not a lot of high end talented receivers he really faced at San Diego State over the past 2 seasons.
So while you're knocking my boy McNeil Warren for not being able to dominate the group of 5 competition, you're just lifting Chris Johnson up on this pedestal.
I have no question about Chris Johnson's athleticism. That wasn't the problem. It was just that he wasn't challenged in technique wise in coverage one-on-one with higher end talent.
That's fair.
Well, to your point though, when you're looking at a small school corner versus a small school safety, do you feel that it's easier to project the corner to moving up a level?
Yes.
The corner, yeah, because it's so much more of a direct Like with a safety, it's the same reason I hate grading. I don't like watching safeties. I just don't. It's the same reason I don't like watching linebackers because it's such an ill-defined position.
Safeties and linemen. You should just play defense with 7 guys, Newt.
But it's the thing is, it's such a reactionary position. Like everything they do reacts to what the offense does, and if the offense plays like shit, then it's really tough to like get a read on how good this player is.
Yep.
Where cornerback, your job is to shut down the guy across from you. A defensive line or edge, your job is to beat the guy across from you. Like it's very well defined. What you need to do is as a lineman or a cornerback, a linebacker or a safety, everything is based on what the offense gives you. And I totally agree with what Owen said. Like I would much rather grade a cornerback and feel better about a cornerback's projection from a group of 5 school than a safety's projection. And I do understand. I'm teasing him a little bit, but like I understand where he's coming from with that because it's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's just harder when so much more of the safeties and linebackers depend on team-centered things, whereas I can look at this corner and be like, okay, he flipped his hips and he ran with his guy and locked him down. Oh, there was a ball in there and he played it well. Like that's a lot more objective points.
Yes.
Whereas safety, it's a lot more muddied.
Yeah, I'm gonna check out the Cal film now, because I want to be able to see him and just like, hey, can you line up across from the guy and actually play press man coverage, get your hands on the guy, show a decent amount of strength on the line, and then show good technique with that. Because I think with him, that's going to change the conversation from, maybe like a mid 50 to even like a mid to high 30s and flip him right around where, because just to kind of like make the transition, Julian Neal he's a badass when it comes to being able to play press man corner. And for me, it's something that I really like because I think it sets you apart from a lot of other guys. I think that cornerbacks, by and large, are going to be some of the best athletes on the field. So trying to, weed out, good ones from bad ones in terms of their athletic profile, you run into a lot of challenges with that. 2 things to me stand out, and it's going to be the ability for a cornerback to make plays on the ball, which goes into ball skills, which we talked about, and then their ability to have a aggressive mindset and play as an impactful player on the line of scrimmage. Is why I liked A.Z. Thomas last year a ton. Now, his athleticism really hurt him, and he's kind of like the duality of that. Julian Neal tested really well, and that was all I needed from him. I didn't need him to be a freak, and I'm sure that, looking at that, he's like really, really happy with a lot of the scores that he had. He came in below 4.5 for his 40-yard dash. He had a 3-cone that was under 7.2. It was actually 7.13. And it's like the elements of his game that I just needed him to be baseline at and like, hey, prove that you are a capable athlete. And then I'm going to let the other things that you do really well shine because he is so dominant on the line of scrimmage. He's the best press man corner in this class, bar none. I don't care if it's Gerard McCoy or Mansour Delane. I think that Neal is a better player at the line of scrimmage being disruptive, and that's something that just elevates him up my board. Now, there are some things that he does not do as well as those guys. I think that with him, you're going to see a guy that struggles a little bit at the break point. He doesn't quite have that like freaky change of direction that you're going to see from some of the other guys. Like Mansour Delane, I think is the best man coverage cornerback in this year's draft class, bar none. It's so impressive to me how well he can stay in the hip pocket of the wide receiver that he's playing against. And when you're asking him to play a coverage scheme that is inherently more challenging, and he does it at a high level, it's going to be what elevates him, to a top, like number 2 cornerback on my board. Neal doesn't quite do it to that effect. There are some things that I think that he could stand to improve upon, but his ability to be dominant on the line of scrimmage is going to be something that I think very few cornerbacks are able to tout, which is why he's number 5 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm just a little bit lower on his overall athletic profile. I think he does like what you said. I don't disagree with, but I think that there's a lot of when it comes, especially with man coverage, you need to be able to have some more fluidity, quick twitch, long speed stuff that I think like even like Chris Johnson, where when I say like he was good at the line of scrimmage, I do think he plays aggressive, and I don't think his press technique, especially at the line of scrimmage, like punching guys, is to the level of Neal's. I do think that when it comes to going in phase with guys and being physical throughout the route, once they've kind of got into the break, is a lot better when it comes with what Johnson does. And whereas Neal, I think he's going to be a step behind. He reminds me a lot of a less athletic like Joey Porter Jr., especially with how they were at the line of scrimmage. When he was coming out of Penn State. So
I mean, it's
that's
tough
where
to
I-
be
yeah.
like Joey Porter Jr.'s mentality is the mentality I wish every cornerback had coming out, where it's like, hey, let's drop the helmet and just go out there and fight, man.
Yeah. I also just think you're wrong about the McCoy or Delane. I mean, does McCoy need to sit out 3 straight seasons of football for you to finally drop him below Delane?
He sat out a full season. That's it. Like, he played 2024, the entirety of it. It was an off-season injury, and he decided to not work out at the combine, and now everyone's pissing their pants over that.
I mean, he's my 19th overall player.
The combine, it's because my opinion, it's because he already knew how high he was going to go. So
there's no reason for him to work out at the combine.
Right.
I'm just concerned.
From the draft professors that are Tennessee fans was that he could have came back, but Tennessee's season went south, so we just put it on the shelf.
I mean,
which is fair.
Here's the point I like to that, and there's a difference. I look at like a Caleb Banks, and he was not nearly as touted as McCoy, and there's definitely a business decision there, but Florida's probably not making a bowl game. He comes back. He plays his ass off in the last 2 games. He has a hell of a week at the Senior Bowl, and then he blows up the combine. Like, yes, he probably had to do that to get himself back into that, top 32 defensive tackle position. He couldn't take the events off, but he did it, and he did it really well, and I like that. And I believe in the tape that I saw from McCoy, but I would be lying to say that like I do like. I want to see you do something. And so, like, Owen, I think it's an exaggerated point, but I think it is like a valid point that, well, we haven't seen him in over a year. There's got to be something that you can give us, but I understand the business decision that Jim argues as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's still my 19th overall player from 2-year-old tape at this point, and I think I'm just questioning because, like, the big thing was, like, he was a freak athlete. Is this going to be something that's going to negatively impact that? Like, there's other stuff I would like to see him improve, but, like, he's 19th overall on my board. Mansour Delane's 9th overall on my board. Like, they're both really good players, but I'm like, I love, like, everything you talk about with Delane, just, like, he's awesome. And McCoy, I just needed to see more.
Delane's phenomenal. Like, there's no doubt about it. I said it already with, like, his man coverage skill is just out of this world impressive. And I value the hell out of that. So, like, I absolutely do get it.
Okay, well, we've just finished up covering the DBs. Newt, you want to tell everybody about all of your podcasts and other draft content?
I mean, you're watching probably one of the best podcasts out there right now. If you guys are paying attention, especially for the draft as a whole, you can catch me here Wednesday nights arguing with Owen about the highlights and lowlights of Group 5 to top 10 players across the country. We're going to be doing that for a handful more position groups, but that's kind of been the mainstay over the last couple months, and it'll continue to be moving up to draft season. I also do make content for Packer-specific draft content for Cheesehead TV. Got a good amount of that coming out weekly leading up to the draft, and then I will be writing for their draft guide for the defensive tackle and edge positions. That'll be coming out in early April. Keep an ear out if you guys are interested. It's for all lovers of the draft, not just Packers, but it is a little bit more geared towards them.
If I order the Cheesehead TV guide, do you send me cheese with it?
No, it's a digital copy, and And
Okay, I don't want any digital cheese. I
don't know if you want.
I'm a sucker for sharp cheddar.
So you send me cheese with. That's a good one.
Digital cheese. Yeah, that's that perfect pocket of like just dumb enough that it's awesome.
It is. It's late at night. So yeah, maybe. Owen.
Truth.
Yeah. So speaking of, you don't have to be a Packers fan to enjoy Cheesehead TV. I'm not a Packers fan. I actively own a Bears jersey, and I'm running for Cheesehead TV for their interior offensive line section this upcoming draft season. So if you want to hear more of me talk about, kind of translate what I did these past few months on Tuesdays with Jerry Ostrowski, talking about the offensive line, you can go over there and read that there. All my write-ups for the interior offensive line, as well as catch me again here Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. on Mrs. Are Relevant. Tuesday nights is more Bills-focused podcast with me, Jerry Ostrowski, and Randall Slifer. And then Wednesdays, obviously, I'm here with Newt and or any other guests that I like better than Newt to come on, so I can find someone else to talk to finally on Wednesdays.
Well, we do have a guest coming on next week to talk wide receivers.
Exactly. Perfect.
There we go.
Yep. So I'm here for more Omar Cooper Jr. propaganda.
It's going to be hot and heavy. I'm going to tell you that.
Even if I move him up my board, there's no way he's cracking top 20. Like, no way.
God. I love him so much. And if you want to see more Omar Cooper Jr. Propaganda, follow me on Twitter at Weekly Huddle.
There it is. There it is.
So I want to thank everybody that's checking the show out today. We're here every day at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern. This was our second podcast of the day. We're going to be back tomorrow, 7 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern. We have group mock drafts every Friday at 7 Eastern. Last week, Newt was on the podcast with Dale from Bengals and Brews. That was a riot. So it was 3 hours of them talking about their top 100s. And then this week, it's Jake Shivnick and TJ Wengert are going to be emceeing that draft. We're also preparing for Epic Mock 26, which is a 32 podcaster mock draft, 7 rounds, 3 days. We're draft professors. It's what we do. It's our celebration of all of the work that we have put in since May. So give Owen and Newt a follow. Owen has been podcasting twice a week pretty much since May.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a journey.
Yeah. So like the work that these guys are putting in, you guys, it's absolutely incredible. So we will be here tomorrow night for the 87 podcasters at the Draft Professor for Newt, Owen, and myself. Thank you so much. Enjoy your evening. We will see you on a podcast again tomorrow. Thank you.